Today's video we may upset some of you, because I'm doing a Premier League stadium tier list for the upcoming season. So yes, we're including the promoted teams, Forest, Fulham and Bournemouth in this. And we're going to go through them, ranking them from title winner to relegation zone level. I'm interested to hear your thoughts and where you agree and or disagree with me. And without further ado, let's start this thing. We start off with the Vitality Stadium of Bournemouth. Now, unfortunately for Bournemouth, it is the smallest in the league, and it barely meets the requirements for a Premier League stadium. It would be really nice for them to have a little bit of continuity and staying in the Prem for like 5 years, potentially getting an expansion or moving somewhere nearby to a bigger stadium that can accommodate the newfound success. However, I'm going to put them at the bottom, sadly. Next up, we have Arsenal with the Emirates. Now, my first visit to the Emirates was to see us lose in nearly the last minute on the first game of a Premier League season. Olivier Giroud scored. I think Lacazette scored on his debut. Vardy scored as well. But we lost. However, the stadium is magnificent. The architecture is incredible. For those that don't know, I have a master's in architecture, so that's going to come into some of these decisions here. I think it's a really, really nice stadium. The atmosphere isn't really going to come into it as much in these decisions because I feel like that's an away day kind of video, which we'll do an away day tier list in the future. But now it's just about design of the stadium, the features and everything like that. So Arsenal for me, really, really high up. Of the stadiums that I've been to, it looks amazing. It's a bit expensive. I'll put that one in there. If you want to get food and drink and stuff, it's going to cost you a little bit. But the seats are good. The views of the pitch are good. The away end is good as well. So, yeah, I think all in all, Arsenal, I rate really highly. Next, we have Villa Park of Aston Villa. Now, again, from going to this ground, I actually don't have good memories. But, again, we'll get onto that into another video. But I've been 3 times, haven't seen us win once. I've seen us lose in the 90th minute in a cup semi-final. That was not ideal. And also, possibly the worst away game I've ever been to was at Villa Park. However, the stadium is a classic, and there's a reason why it gets touted for England games and finals and stuff like that if they're not going to be at Wembley all the time. People love Villa Park. Now, the away end is quite good. It's not quite as high-end as some of the others that are going to be on this list. And obviously the size of it is good, but it's also not quite as huge as some of the others. Now, that isn't necessarily an awful thing. You don't have to have a massive stadium for it to be great. However, I feel like Villa Park, it's good, but it's not great. So, we're going to put it in probably the competition that sort of sums that up, the Europa League spots. Up next is Brentford with Brentford's community stadium. Now with this one, I can't say that I've been there, so I have to base this off of views, the structure, and everything like that. And with Brentford's, it's okay. I kind of understand what they've gone for here, and obviously you have to respect the level of club that Brentford are. They can't make this mega stadium like Spurs and Everton and all these other clubs that are rebuilding theirs. So it makes sense for the level of club that they are. They've been in it a couple of years, and I do think it looks quite nice. And so I'm not going to put it too low down here. I'm going to go with high mid-table for Brentford because I think it suits them quite well. Next is Brighton with the Amex. Now, I also haven't been to the Amex, so I can't talk about the facilities and stuff like that. So this one is going to be based purely on the architecture and the design. I really like it. Now, I do wish that the smaller ends had a bit more to them, and maybe in the future they can accommodate for that. Maybe they can rebuild those sections, but the gull wings and everything like that, I really like the Amex. I think it's really cool, and it's one of the stadiums that's on my bucket list of places I'd really like to go whilst they're in the Prem. And under Potter they're doing well, so it doesn't look like they're going to be moving down anytime soon. So I'm going to put them right here, the Conference League. Chelsea and Stamford Bridge. Now, I've been to Stamford Bridge, and I've also obviously seen it a lot on TV because it's Chelsea. They're on the TV all the time. And it feels like one of those grounds that it was great. It was really, really good previously. However, with the modernisation of stadiums and my personal design likes and dislikes, it isn't quite up there. The away end, when I went, wasn't that great either. And so it was a bit disappointing, if I'm honest. And the rest of my family went that day, and it was also their first time witnessing it. And they didn't really get blown away by it either, compared to some of the other grounds that we've been to. So it really was a bit lackluster for me. I feel like, again, back in the day, it was good. But for a club like Chelsea, with the money that they have, they should have a nicer and better stadium at this stage. So I'm going to put Chelsea down mid-table. Next up, Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace. Not great. I'm just going to put it out there. No messing around here. Not a massive fan of Selhurst Park. It's not got that much about it that I can really say much positive about. However, I will say one thing. This is the concept of their new stadium. This would be phenomenal. And if they do this, this goes right to the top of the rankings. However, current Selhurst Park, not quite as extravagant as that one. So, unfortunately, for Palace, as it stands, they're going down near the bottom. Actually, you know what? They're going into the relegation zone. Next up, we have Goodison Park and Everton, and this one, very similar to Crystal Palace. I feel like it's a little bit better than Palace, but I'm not a massive fan of the design of Goodison and everything like that. My away experience wasn't that great either. It didn't feel modern enough for me. However, yet again, if we look at their stadium plans for the future that have been given the green light and go ahead for in a few years' time, this is going to be phenomenal. Some of the Premier League stadiums we're going to have in, I don't know, like 2026, let's say, are going to be mind-blowing. So in the future, again, like Palace, Everton will be right up there. But for right now, I'm really not a fan. And so, as it stands, I'm going to put them low to mid-table. Fulham and Craven Cottage. Now, this one is a bit of a throwback. And to when they were in the Prem, absolutely smashing it. Bobby Zamora days, right? But they are now back, and they are in the Prem for the second time in a few years now. Last time they came up, spent a load, went straight back down. This year, on the back of Mitrovic's outrageous season, who knows what's going to happen. It's a classic ground, but I'm not a fan. Again, if we look at this picture, you have like restricted views and everything like that. It's not the biggest. It's quite homely, I guess, but it's just not what I'm a massive fan of in stadiums. Now, they are planning, sorry, wrong one, here, to change the Riverside stand to something along these lines. Now, this is supposed to finish sort of soon. Whether that will actually happen or not, we'll have to wait and see. This would be a phenomenal change to their stadium. But as it stands, this is what we are left with. So I can't put Fulham high up. I'm sorry. I'd like to, but I'm going to put them down here for now. Leeds and Elland Road. Just about stayed up, and now we have this beauty of a stadium to continue into the new season. Now, there are plans for more expansion for Elland Road, but this is what we currently have. The one massive stand over here. It's pretty insane, to be fair. The away day, you are sort of tucked away near the fans that just bombard you the entire game. It's a little bit different from being up in the grandstand, I guess, but I do like Elland Road. I'm not going to lie. The away day experience was okay there. Not as bad as some of the others that are in this list as well. The atmosphere is normally pretty good as well. But just the design of it, I do like it. And I'm hoping that they will continue to expand and just make it better and better as the years go on. So I'm going to put Leeds in high to mid-table. Now we come to my team, Leicester City. And what can I say? This has been my home for somewhere between 15 and 20 years. Every other week I'm down here watching either depressing or mind-blowing extravaganza football. There's no in-between with Leicester. And this is our stadium, which is a copy and paste of one that we're about to see later on. Now, Leicester are another team that have massive plans for stadium upheaval and improvement over the next couple of years. We'll get to that in a second. Now, in terms of the stadium itself, from the outside, it's not the prettiest. It's not. The surrounding area has improved over the years, but the stadium itself obviously hasn't. It's stayed the same. I feel like the concourse and everything like that is good, but it's definitely not world-beating, that's for sure. However, this is what it might look like, or what it's hoping to look like. Sort of like an Allianz style, crazy. Behind the camera of this is going to be sort of like a Wembley Way style walkway up to the ground. This piazza kind of outside bit is crazy. This is going to be the East Stand, which is where I sit. So I'd love to go and sit in this expanded stand in the future. So in the future, I love this. This is basically like the Allianz Arena, to me, is my favourite stadium in the world. I can't believe that we may have one that looks similar. And so this will rapidly rise up the rankings for me. However, currently, I don't want to be biased here because, as I say, it's basically a second home for me. So I think what I'll do is I will put us... We're sort of here, and I'm not sure which. I'm going to go high to mid here. Next up is Liverpool and Anfield. Now, this is one where it would differ massively on my away day compared to the stadium rankings. Because for me, Liverpool goes straight in to the UCL spots here. And the stadium is really, really nice. I love the design. Some of the brickwork outside when you go there is incredible. As is the massive gate that they've got as well with the liverbird and everything like that. They're planning to expand even more. I actually went on the first day that the expansion to the main stand was opened, and it looked just intimidating looking at it. Again, we're not bringing atmosphere into it, otherwise they'd be up there with... No, they'd be number one. Let's be realistic here. They'd be number one. For the UCL nights at Anfield, mind-blowing. However, this is purely the stadium. And so I think Liverpool go very, very easily into this UCL spot alongside Arsenal. Now we have Manchester City and the Etihad Stadium. And you know what? Let's just put it straight in. UCL spots for me. I am a massive fan of the Etihad. I feel like the design is... Oh, it's beautiful. Like, it's so good for a football stadium. There are some stadiums that fit other things, but not football as much. But this just feels perfect for what it is built for here. And if you haven't been, I would highly recommend going. I know that people joke about like the Etihad and stuff like that, but the stadium design itself, the location and everything like that, the stuff that it's done for the surrounding areas... Oh, it's really, really good, and I'm a massive fan here. You can probably tell by the fact that I've got the Emirates and the Etihad here what kind of stadiums I like, as well as some of the concept images of the other stadiums that are planned to be being built. I do like these kind of architectural designs that don't just feel like four old stands put together separately. I like this sort of bowl structure, very much so, and so yeah. The Etihad goes into the UCL spots for me. Now, we probably have a bit of a controversial one. We've got Old Trafford. Now, again, this is purely based on design, features, facilities, and all of that. I've been to Old Trafford, I think about 5 times in my life over the last, 10 years or so. Charity games, proper Leicester games away there. And so I've been in different sections of the stadium and experienced different hospitality sections and everything like that. And I can't lie, my experience hasn't been amazing. I don't feel like it's as insane as it should be for the stadium that it is. The capacity is huge, but it feels a bit outdated. The structure and everything, it feels like it... I'm not a massive fan of exposed sections in a lot of stands, and so you see all of this stuff on the roof and everything like that. It's why I've put our stadium a bit lower as well, because it isn't the one for me. And I feel like for Man U being arguably the biggest club in world football, whilst yes, the capacity is great, I feel like they should have something a bit better. And I feel like that is summarized by the fact that they don't even have, or as of like a year ago, I'm pretty sure this hasn't changed, they don't even have like proper screens there. This is supposed to be like the biggest club in the world, and all you have is a little scoreboard that says the clubs and the score and the time. You don't get replays or anything like that at Old Trafford. That to me is mind-blowing. And it feels like, yes, they had this insane stadium, but they aren't modernising it and they aren't keeping up with the times. And whether they do that or whether they end up planning to move, I don't know. But I feel like it's slowly but surely falling behind the curve, especially when you see like the Emirates, the Etihad, Spurs Stadium, the plans for Leicester's, Palace, Everton's. These stadiums all seem to fit the modern age much better. And so I know that some people are going to get very frustrated at this one, but from my experience, I just like some of the other, like, it's good. It's just not, it's not the one for me. And so unfortunately, I'm putting it down here. I think I'll put it like the highest of this lot, right? And so it would be in 8th place here. And again, it's controversial, but it is what it is. Now, we've got 6 teams left. Let's do it. St. James's Park, Newcastle United. New ownership come in after the Mike Ashley era. Would not surprise me if we see a massive revolutionary change to St. James's Park in the future. However, we're judging it off of how it is right now. First things first, it's basically half a mega stadium, half a championship stadium. I don't really like it. I feel like it works better if it's one stand, this mega stand, rather than half of it. It just seems odd to me. However, one thing I will give them props for, look at this. Big screen up here. Man United. Take notes. Now, there's a couple of things about St. James's Park. Yes, it is huge. It's a classic stadium. It's a staple. I'm not a massive fan of the roof design. I'm not a massive fan of the architectural design of this one, if I'm honest with you. Maybe I would be if it was the same all the way round, because then they could do different things with the structure, especially of the roof and the outer layers of this. Basically like the elevations and everything like that. But it is what it is. If you are in the away end, you're basically all the way up here. You're in the gods, basically. And so you're so far away from the pitch. It's crazy. Now, I know that is going to happen in the bigger stadiums, but Newcastle is just a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. So, I'm not a massive fan, to be honest with you. I'm not the biggest fan in the world. And so, for now, I'm going to put it in here. It may creep up to high to mid-table, but I'm going to put it low to mid for now. So Forest are back in the Prem, and this is what we're currently working with. The Nottingham Forest Stadium. I don't really like it. I think it's as simple as that. It's not the biggest. It's not the best looking. I mean, if you look through it here, then you'll see from the bird's eye view, it's a bizarre looking stadium and structure, really. I'm not a big fan of it. However, they have plans to massively change it. And look at what Forest Stadium is planning to look like in the future. This is pretty nuts. And if they do this, then I will rate it massively. I mean, this would be fantastic for them. Whether they have the finances to actually push this through now that they're in the Prem, I don't know. But we're basing it off of the current stadium. I don't think it's very good. I'm putting it low to mid-table. Next up, we have St Mary's and Southampton. And you may be looking at these images thinking, this looks pretty similar. Why is that? It's because it's literally the same as the KP. It's the same stadium, right? If you've been here, then you will know it is a copy and paste, right? And so it's kind of difficult to try and give an answer to this one that isn't just saying exactly the same as the Leicester Stadium. The one thing, as I said before, the Leicester plan is to make it this mega structure. Southampton don't currently have those kind of plans. But is it harsh to rate it lower than the Leicester one? I have been to St Mary's and the surrounding area is not quite as nice as around the King Power. Should that factor in to the stadium tier list? Maybe, maybe not. Because if you go to places like Old Trafford, places like Anfield, Goodison Park, you walk down little side streets pretty much to end up getting to the stadium. So maybe it's a bit harsh. I think what I will say is that it's difficult because I just don't have many places. I think Leicester and Southampton are basically the same. And so I'm going to put Southampton here. Leicester 13th, Southampton 14th, basically joint. Then, Tottenham. The Spurs Stadium. There is no question about this. Simply put, I feel like if anyone disagrees, then they're crazy. Or maybe they haven't looked at it too much, or they haven't been. I have been. I was fascinated with the design and everything when it was first revealed. And then when we got to see some of the little features that it was going to have in like the concourse and everything like that, it's fantastic. The screens are perfect for in case you are up in the high areas. I actually went here not to watch football, but to watch NFL, American football. And that was incredible here. The sound systems, everything is just great. And you can see why they spent so much on it. It is a humongous investment for Spurs, and it's a game changer. And I feel like this is the best stadium in modern years, really. I genuinely don't have negatives to say about it. There are certain features on the exterior that are architecturally just delightful. Even some of the linking bridges across to like staff areas that you can't access. Oh, they're just so intricately designed. It's a work of art, the Spurs Stadium. And when it comes to architecture-based, I don't think anything comes close to this. Whilst the Etihad and the Emirates and everything are great, this is phenomenal. So this is by far and away my number one. It genuinely is not even close. Now, West Ham are the penultimate team, and the controversy of the London Stadium. Now, this is maybe an opinion that not everybody is going to be a massive fan of. I really like it. Now, this might be a different ranking in the away day tier list. However, hear me out on this. The stadium itself is phenomenal, right? It's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we all saw it for the 2012 Olympics. It's incredible. If you haven't been for any kind of event, you need to go. It is an amazing experience. Now, my first experience here was actually watching some of the Olympics. It was incredible. Walked past Boris at the time. He wasn't as much of a tool, but it is what it is. And yeah, what an experience it was watching athletics and stuff like that in here. I then went to my first away game a couple of years ago as a Leicester fan at the football, and it was before they moved the seats a bit closer. It wasn't incredible. Now, they've moved them a bit closer, so the away, well, just the football experience is a bit better. If you are at the side, you're still a bit of a distance away from the pitch, but I'm not really sure it's going to change. But this is stadium tier list. As I say, it's not away day tier list. This is stadium tier list. And it's really, really good. Really, really good. And so I feel like it has to go up here. Maybe even above Liverpool, to be honest. You know what? I'm making a late change. Liverpool are dropping down. West Ham are going into the top 4. A sentence they wish that they'd hear in the actual Premier League. And now we move on to the last one, Wolves. So here we have Molineux for Wolverhampton Wanderers as the last one. And unfortunately for them, there's only one spot left for them to go in. And that is going to have to be in high to mid-table. So we'll put them above us. But quickly, to explain why, the stadium's good, not great. I'm not a fan of separations in between stands. We went over that earlier. I love more of like a bowl structure rather than 4 separated stands. I don't really like it. Now, this would actually rank higher than it does on this tier list in my away days because they put on a show, right? The light shows and everything like that. The build up to the game is really, really good. The concourse wasn't bad either. However, as a stadium itself, again, looking at it from here, I'm not really a fan, to be perfectly honest with you. So that is going to be my final standings for this tier list. Let me know your thoughts. I've got Spurs as the best, Arsenal, Man City, West Ham. Then we got Liverpool and Villa, Brighton, Man United, Brentford, Chelsea, Leeds, Wolves, Leicester and Southampton, Everton, Newcastle, Forest, Palace, Bournemouth, Fulham. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have I got things completely wrong? If so, you'll have to let me know in the comments. What I will do is I will leave a link to this tier list so that you can do your own and potentially link me your thoughts. But that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, thumb it up, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.